Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Nonitos Donitis.
Could this be tonight?
Hey guys.
Hey, guys.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. I'm really excited about this stuff because, this is something that I'm very passionate about. It's about creating some inspiration to the world and sharing my wisdom, sharing my knowledge. First, welcome to Beyond the Ring with Nonito and Rachel.
This segment's YOUniversity. I know we usually talk about boxing on Thursday nights. Of course, we talk about sex and boxing. And we have War Wednesdays, but we're starting a new segment on Sundays to get your week right, to get you in the right mindset.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's called YOUniversity, right?
How long have you been practicing that?
YOUniversity.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So I'm very excited about this because I think that with all the fighting, with all the things that's going on back and forth, I feel like something has to be in a positive light. We had a great fight coming on that happened last week, yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And and people were very excited about it.
Well, I think that the highlight of this whole thing is the fact that there's, within not just boxing, but the entire world, everybody has their own experiences. Everybody has their own issues, right?
Right.
Their flaws, their positive attributes as well. And sometimes people just need guidance. So we want to dedicate one episode a week to where things that we have gone through, things that other people have gone through, and how we can better guide everyone in this day and age, because there are different obstacles that people are dealing with now that weren't dealt with when we were growing up.
I mean, the thing now is, especially when the pandemic hit, all of a sudden mental health issue became a thing. When it was already been there since the very beginning. Now, because of the fact that people were staying in and they couldn't really do much during those times, that a lot of people were very much affected by it. And now it's a thing. Mental health issue is a thing, and it's something that every one of us go through.
Well, I think it's the fact that, when you had a lot of time to look in the mirror. Before, you would just book your day with every single thing that you had to do, and you didn't have downtime to actually look and self-reflect. So these things are coming out, especially in social media. People have Twitter. They furiously type things that they regret they didn't type, and now they're screenshots. And they go live and they say things that they hope they didn't. So we're going to start to talk about those things. But today's topic is
ownership and accountability. I think that's something that eludes a lot of the people because, when we mess up in any way, we love to take accountability when it's a victory, right? We love to take accountability when it's a positive thing. But when it becomes a negative aspect or experience, he did it or she did it. He made me do it. There's so many things of that people always tend to go to.
Yeah. I mean, and we see it right now. Like we see it to even segue into boxing, right? We have people that are blaming each other and not taking responsibility or accountability for themselves and their career and what role they played in, whether these negotiations fell through or not. So I think you have a special guest, right?
Yes, I have a very special person coming in a bit. He's my life coach, the person that kind of guided me through getting back in the ring and being positive, and even coming after what happens, after boxing, so sometimes we have to kind of prepare ourselves, because if we just kind of sit down and wait for things to happen, you never know. And you're not prepared because you didn't really plan your mindset into what can happen to you in this now, or what can happen to you tomorrow. So today's been a very exciting thing for me, because I'm very passionate about sharing my knowledge and my experience when it comes down to accountability. Because for me, growing up, man, I mean, listen, I grew up in the Philippines, and it was always, and then I can segue this to growing up. as children's, when we make a mistake, guess what? We don't want to, we get, even though we say sorry, we still get beaten up or get yelled at. And we don't want to go through that stuff. So what happens is we end up lying about it or not owning up to it, or he made me do this or he made me do that, that we stop getting to the level of owning what we have done. And throughout our lives, we end up, making excuses for a lot of things. For me, myself, I've grown up with a lot of that stuff. Every time I lost, I would say, well, you know, um, I didn't feel good today. Or, back in the days when I was in the amateurs, I lost because they cheated me or whatever it may be, right? There was always an excuse behind something. When I dropped something and broke a glass, my dad got mad at me. And guess what? He startled me, even though he didn't, right? Or my brother didn't. So all in all is a lot of that happened is because we're afraid. We're afraid to get in. Uh, um, we're afraid to getting yelled at or getting spanked, and so we make those excuses. And throughout our lives, we start getting the habit of making those excuses that we forget the very being that we are as human being to take ownership and own up to all the things that we do. But a lot of that stuff will come to my special guest is my life coach, a really good friend of mine, and he has a lot of knowledge. And if you guys got a lot of questions when it comes down to it, man, he's the all knowing kind of guy. So I'm gonna bring him up here. I think he should be coming soon. Boom, there he go. So let's welcome my very good friend, my life coach, Chad Cooper. How you doing, sir?
Well, good afternoon, and dude, I'm super excited about the combo because it is you have this like secret, part of you that you don't. Well, actually, you're one of the few that do talk about the need to have a different kind of coach, right? The mindset coach. And I think it's the piece, if anybody is really a serious athlete, be that Olympian or professional, the dirty secret behind it, Nonito, is that every one of those champions have one. They just don't want you to know about it. So I'm glad to be on, I'm excited that you are willing to talk about the thing that a lot of people are deathly afraid of. So plus,
Yeah, I mean,
anytime that I can look at this background of are those like Lego made belts? Your kids put
yes,
those all together?
100%. They're Legos. I
Yeah.
put them. I put them together. I had my kids. I had a sweatshop in the back of their room, in their room, and I just had them put them together. And this is what happens in the back. So,
Yeah.
this is my life coach, Chad Cooper, and he. If you can tell about what you've done and who you are in terms so that people can kind of see what you've done and who you are, and your experience in life coaching and stuff like that.
Well, I think you're hitting the nail on the head about accountability. So, what is a life coach? Today, it's a little bit hard to navigate and understand because a life coach is certified, licensed, trained. And the thing that separates them is not that I've done certain things, and because I have certain experience, Nonito, that qualifies me to be able to go out and coach other people, right? A life coach actually is trained in really the understanding in that we believe you already have the answers. Our job is to ask powerful questions that bring those up for you to be able to address, right? And if you can't have accountability, those questions are going to come to you anyway, and you're going to run away. And so some of those are kind of like rites of passage. So the people that I work with are people that have really kind of gone from something happened to me in the past, and we all have our tragedy, but that whatever that is in the past is no longer an excuse; it's an explanation, and they live in the present tense. And so I work with typically these days I work with professional athletes, often in world title fights, in Super Bowl events, Major League Baseball would be World Series, et cetera, right? Hockey, Stanley Cup, those kind of things. I work with Olympians, anywhere from silver to gold medalists, and then I work with the financial titans of the world, and I work with everyday people. So I can work with a spectrum of people, and the reason I'm able to do that is because my experience can help, but the reality is there's a certain set of patterns, and if you know those patterns, you can help anybody around the world. So there's a really long-winded answer.
Someone had asked, the difference between life coach and psychiatrist. I mean, you probably saw that, but aren't you one too?
Yeah, I do have a degree in psychology. It was really funny back in my undergrad school with Abraham Lincoln, right? Because you think I'm old as shit.
Yes, yes,
So
and you have that beard too, so.
yeah, it's a great question. So one of the differences, and I believe that you can do both. I also believe both are very helpful. I've spent my fair share of time because, like you, I grew up with some difficult upbringing. I grew up with alcoholism. I grew up with, um, well, I grew up with just about everything. We don't need to go down mine, but you go to therapy to deal with whatever happened in the past, and you're trying to make peace with that. And psychology is a great place for you to go through and work through those historical issues. Coaching comes in and says, okay, whatever happened in the past, we can look at this as if you had a broken arm. Okay, you got a broken arm. Do you want to talk about how it got broken, or do you want to do something about it? That's where coaching comes in, right? Is if you need therapy to deal with how the arm got broken, great. There's frankly, I would say in my experience, kind of qualified. And the reason I'm saying that is there's a lot of therapists out there, and if one's not serving you, don't give up, man. Go in, take ownership, take accountability. It's your time, your dollar, and find another one until you find one that, frankly, when you walk out of there, you shouldn't be walking out all happy and like, oh yeah, that was easy. You're probably going to walk out a little bit pissed off or like, crap, I got crap I need to deal with, right? That's
Right.
when you know it's working. When you've reached that point where you're not using your past as a crutch, when you're not using your past as an excuse for the decision you're making today or tomorrow, then you're in a great place to look at coaching. And coaching comes in and says, hey, here's where I am today. Where do I want to go with that moving forward? So, hey, I want to be the undisputed world champion. Great, we can work with that.
The thing that a lot of fighters have, and a lot of fans are very frustrated about this, is because fighters don't seem to reach out for help because of their ego, and because they think that they don't need help. And you can blatantly see that a lot of fighters out there, are in need of that kind of stuff.
I think that there's a disservice that's going on. I also think that there's a whole nother movement going on, and that is like, oh, you should just air everything to everyone. No, you need to trust but verify. Trust that certain people want to have good intentions, but you need to verify that A, they're going to keep it confidential, B, that they're qualified, and C, that they're coming from a place of not judging you, right? So if you're going to choose to get vulnerable, we can look at in martial arts, the softer that you are, the stronger you are. The more vulnerable you are, the more powerful you are. That's the definition of Tai Chi. And so when we look at a boxer as an example, it's like, oh, I got to be tough and always on. Dude, that's exhausting. Know that you have a profession. Know that you're going into, and I don't mean to demean this. I think you understand and maybe need to correct it, but you're going into civilized combat, right? Because if you're going into real combat, and as a former Marine, I know the difference between the two. And in today's world, there's a rare small space that we really have to be constantly head on a swivel combat position. So there's a place for where we go in and we do our career, and man, you better step up and you better not give any leeway, right? And we
Right.
can do that as a gentleman or as a lady kicking ass. Outside of the ring, we all have our own ring that we're stepping into in our head about our past, about our relationships, about raising our kids, about how I'm going to pay bills, or whatever that is. I mean, you got that battleground as well. And that's where I
Right.
say you need to have good people that you can come around, take off your armor, and find people that'll come around you and support you. Because if you can't do that, that shit just gets heavy, and then you start taking it out on people that you care about the most.
Well, what we see with a lot of athletes, not just boxers, basketball players, and all of that stuff, is they don't know how to separate themselves from being an athlete to being a family man, or from, you know, from anything. You know, there's a ferret just touched my foot. My son's ferret just kind of got out, so he's all over the place right now. He's running like, what the heck? Anyways, there he is.
There he
So,
is. Oh, those
yeah,
things are awesome.
Beastmaster. That would be you, right?
Awesome. My brother had like 4 of them, loved them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So athletes tend to have a one life kind of thing. And it's either, you know, they don't know how to separate themselves when it comes down to a lot of things.
I mean, the reality is you're on a stage. And in today's world, what they asked like 30 former House speakers in Congress, if there was one thing that you could do and one change you could make in Congress, what would it be? And unanimously, they said, turn off the cameras every once in a while, right? And so the reason I'm saying that is if you are fortunate enough, you're blessed enough to be in a position where you're being watched all the time, you got to find that place where you have your serenity, your solitude. I was profiled by the foremost body language expert who profiled Bill Clinton during his impeachment trials, O.J. Simpson. She is the one that trains the FBI and all these people. And she had me do this thing, and she goes, "You don't like people coming to your house, do you?" I said, "How can you tell by looking at a drawing that she asked me to do?" She goes, "Well, let's see. You have no side. Your driveway has no sidewalk to your front door. Your front door has no doorknob. You have a fence up. You pretty much have a big middle finger." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my sanctuary." And it's okay
I guess I'm the
today.
same way as you, because I'm the same way.
Yeah. I mean, you give me a microphone, I'll go up and rock that stage. But when you and I are together, it's like 2, 3 people max. I don't want to be
Right.
around, like after a fight and you have your party or whatever. I'm happy to go and support you and see the people that are supporting you. But if I have a choice, it's having a scotch just with you and I, or 3 people at the most,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm an introvert actually, and I need that time. I need that sanctuary. And if you think that you're going to be constantly in the spotlight and you don't have to deal with your crap, you're probably gonna snap at some point. And the question is when and who's going to be around. And people don't deserve that, right? You don't
Yeah.
deserve being put in that position. So
I mean,
take a
I've been in
risk.
that position a lot. You know, I've been in that position, but I've been the guy who just snapped out of nowhere. I mean, because, you know, you're training and all of that stuff. And again, accountability, because I would say before that, man, I'm cutting weight, or I'm training, I'm so focused. And me and her would get into it, because I would make all kinds of stupid excuse for how I was feeling, instead of just being like, you know what, I just feel like crap today. I just want a day off or something, man. I just don't want to be anybody else or around anybody else. But the thing is, a lot of athletes don't know how to feel that way, or don't know how to come about it, and they just go in reaction. And I've always been in that way for a very long time. I was always that kind of person. I was always reacting to how I was feeling without being open to her and expressing how I feel that day, or how I feel that moment that I'm cutting weight. I'm like, hey, babe, I'm cutting weight. I should just kind of cut, my head's not in the right space right now. But now I can do that. But for a very long time, for a lot of athletes, they do that.
Well, we worked on understanding that for people that are in that position, a no is often a very hard word to say, right? We are trained to say yes, right? And so I find, if you're looking at how do I start taking accountability, what I would suggest is begin with a yes and. Yes, I can do that, and I need 20 minutes. Or yeah, I can do that, and it's in 2 weeks. A yes and allows us to be able to serve people and take care of ourselves. And accountability is a responsibility to yourself as well. If you're not good, how are you going to provide for your family? How are you going to step in that ring and perform if you got shit going on up here? I mean, I can tell you, I had a World Series baseball pitcher, and he's up on the mound. I don't know if I shared this story with you, but I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I help them with. Is he's one of the best. He's in the World Series, and his game is off. And so I'm working with him. And he's like, "Hey, man, I think that my wife's diddling somebody else," and she was. And it was like, okay. So what was going on? I can't teach you anything about mechanics of pitching. Don't need to. What I helped him with was the fact that every time he was physically on the mound, his head wasn't in the game. And so it became a choice of, you want the contract in the ring, or do you want the marriage? And so it's about being able to understand, okay, you can physically be in the ring, but what's the consequence of your head not being there?
Right.
I mean,
It's
you are way
you.
too fast. If your
Yeah.
head's not in it, man, you're out. You're done.
Oh,
You're out.
100%. 100%. And then, you know, sometimes, I mean, I've had moments in my time that I was very distracted, that when I needed to push, even though I performed so well, I performed so well, but because I was distracted, that when I needed to push, I just kind of cruised instead. Like I just given up because of the fact that I was still pissed off about what happened, you know, or
Yeah, here's the reality. I see one on here about Ben Simmons, and here's the thing: the people that I work with at this level, it's always, Nonito, about shit that's going on in their personal life or in the contract, something outside of the ring that's stepping into the ring with them. And not only are they fighting the opponent, the bigger monster is actually what's in their head that they're trying to squash. And it's a monster, right? And so it has you trying to focus on two things. You can't do that. And so in those scenarios, I'll tell you what happens is you need to find somebody, A, that isn't gonna judge you. But accountability isn't about somebody also just like blowing smoke up your butt and telling you sunshine and rainbows. Accountability is about somebody that's willing to understand the difference between speaking your truth and speaking your truth through love. Speaking your truth through love comes from empathy and compassion, but don't mistake that for soft edges. It may still have a very sharp sting to it. But when you are able to deliver that to somebody and say, hey, man, you know, the truth is that you need to think about why it is that you don't have the time to do the things that you say you want to do, because it's costing you possibly your marriage, it's possibly costing your kids in a relationship and in an absent parent. What's it costing you? And the reality is it's usually the fact that you're actually not dedicating enough time, or the reality is that you're actually looking for the easy out, right? And so in those situations, we look at that and say, look, it'd be great if you could compartmentalize it. So what's going on with this athlete? Well, I'll tell you what's going on is something off the court or something off the field. And that's where you need to sit down and say, yeah, that makes you human, right? That makes you normal. But
right,
what doesn't make you normal is thinking that you can't deal with that shit, or that you can't talk about it. You
right.
need to. You need to process that.
A lot of fighters, you know, they can't process it, or they refuse to process it in front of everybody, or even to themselves. You know, they go in denial and all of that stuff. And again, going back into accountability. But I just want to say what's up to everybody out here, man. We have a great guest, my life coach and really good friend, Chad Cooper, Mr. Cooper, and he's bringing in a lot of knowledge that people can really help themselves out in terms of becoming accountable on their daily lives, you know. So you know, if you guys got a lot of questions for Chad, you know, feel free to ask. I think you know, by the way, Chad, Lil Penny is from New Zealand, by the way, so you know.
Is that right?
Yes,
Ah, nice.
but he's
Okay.
Filipino.
Wait a minute, he's Filipino but living in New Zealand.
Yes.
That's all right. I'm American, and so you can look up the Waitaha. I am. I don't know if I told you I was over there in November, and I was initiated in and now Maori as well. So I'm part of the oldest indigenous tribe. So I got one up on you. Take that.
Yes. And Big Money here said, hanging with Mr. Cooper. That's right. This is Mr. Cooper, man.
See,
But he
there's
has a
somebody.
lot of knowledge. You know, he's definitely the coach Cooper that to me has guided me to keep coming back and having that mental strength, you know. But yeah, going back into it, man, that's pretty much what a lot of people are going through. I mean, boxers itself. What would you say? So there was a big fight yesterday between Anthony Yard and Beterbiev. You know, you may not have heard of the name, but Yard has, you know, he did an amazing job, you know, but he lost the fight. So for people that have lost and they tried so hard, what would you advise them to do or to react in ways to get over the loss?
Well, I see one of the questions. It was Lil Penny as well. I think about using mental health. So let's first identify the difference, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding today between mental health and mental illness. Right? Everybody suffers from mental health issues from time to time. Okay, that is what makes you human. And in those fights, I would also say that um, everybody faces certain rites of passage, Nonito. And while your path may be unique, while your path may be as unique as your fingerprint, the obstacles that you're going to face along that journey are relatively common to all, right? So to have mental struggles means you're breathing, you're still alive, right? To have the courage to step in the ring is unique. But if we look at Navy SEALs as an example, pretty elite group of soldiers. To become one of those, you have to go through what's called Hell Week. And like 82, 87%, something like that, of 18-year-olds end up ringing the bell. You ring the bell to say, I submit, I quit, right? I'm done. Would you call that person a failure? Not at all. See, and that's part of, I think, the challenge in our society today is we look at that person and instead of trying to understand them, we just jump to judging them. And in the Navy, what they actually say is, you reached your limit today. That's it, man. And as a professional athlete, we have to understand some days we reach our limit. That's it. It is not a defining marker for the rest of your life. That was your limit for today. Tomorrow's a new day.
So you're saying more like just seeing things for the way it is what it seems, right? Like to see that, hey, you know what? Today I just I couldn't do it today. You know, I tried my best, but I couldn't do it today. You know, maybe perhaps tomorrow I can try it again. But seeing it that, hey, this is just how it is in this moment in time. How can I go about it and maybe perhaps another path that opens up for me, you know?
Yeah, it could be. It could be that you stepped in and maybe there are two opponents in that ring. The person that you're facing off and the other person in your head that you brought in as a distraction. It also may be that your opponent was a better fighter today. And own it, right? Congratulate that competitor. That's what you're in to do, is to see what's your limit. When I went in the Marine Corps, I mean, I was a mama's boy when I went in. My mother was freaking out because my other
I think
brothers.
you still are.
Well, I mean,
A little
yeah,
bit.
I own it now. Okay.
Yeah, you do.
I'm okay feeling pretty. Okay.
There you go.
I own it. But she asked, why the Marine Corps? They're regarded as one of the best of the best. And I said, because I want to know what my limits are. If I'm going to do it and I'm going to make the decision that I'm going to step in that ring and everything that the responsibilities it represents, I'm going to be trained by the best. I'm going to know that I'm going to succeed. And the same thing after I got out and then in my late 30s and 40s, I went and did the Ironman circuit at 33 major sponsors. And people will be like, why do an Ironman? Dude, anybody is full of shit if they ever try to justify it. There's no rational reason to ever do an Ironman, right? Why did I do it? Because I needed to see what my limit was, not to society standards, but to my own. And I think today part of the challenge is that when we get our ass handed to us, we are trying to live up to society standards because we haven't defined what ours is. And I think part of that is society. So we've built a society today where we cover for others so much that we've created a generation of people that have no muscle or ability to withstand any mental or emotional uncomfortableness. I've learned over time to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's how you become a world champion. And when these people who haven't built that muscle mentally or emotionally, when the bill finally does come and they have to pay for the price of their decisions or their choice or their behaviors, they have no ability to handle it because other people have interfered so much that it prevents their success or their journey through that rite of passage. So as a result, we've actually robbed people of the liberty or the motive of definiteness of purpose. So great, you got your ass kicked. What did you learn from it?
Now, now, the thing that, going back into it, how do you define your, instead of being defined by others, how do you define you? I think that's the thing that eludes a lot of people. And this is why I talk about accountability and owning up, is because how do you define yourself? And I think accountability is one key factor for that.
Well, I was an elected official for 10 years as well. Damn, I am old, aren't I? Actually, I've just done it a lot in a compressed amount of time. The first 2 years were really hard on me, Nonito, because I'd come home after council meetings and all of this stuff and listen to people look, they're not telling you when you're great. They're only complaining when you screw up or something's wrong. And after about 2 years, my wife was like, look, either you figure out how to leave that crap at the dais, or you've got to resign. You got to walk away from this. And what I realized is I was defining my self-esteem and my self-worth by people's approval or judgment from me. And what I learned is that assessment is between me and God. So my self-esteem and my self-worth is defined between me and God. If I help you win another belt or do anything great, awesome. If you tell me that I screwed up and didn't do something great, awesome. Your opinion of me does not define me. I have to take accountability of the decisions or the things that I did to help a client, good or bad. But whether you like me or not, I'm indifferent to. And that requires a real deep level of self-worth to be able to go, oh, I'm okay that not everybody likes me. I'm also okay that I'm not the coach for every person out there. And so defining who you are, the fruit is the result of inside work or internal work. And it means that we need to actually go to that place. If you look at King Arthur, most people know who King Arthur was. He had a Knights of the Round Table. You need to find your Knights of the Round Table. President has a cabinet. Prime Minister has a cabinet. Go find those people where you can go off into the woods or go off to a fire and take off your armor, and they say, brother, I got your back, and pour it out, man. Okay, we're going to hold you accountable. And they're also going to, Nonito, at times say, you need to step up. You're being a little bitch, step up. So there's that part too. But they're going to embrace you and they're going to love you in the way that you best need. That's how you define yourself.
But I have a question. As that's us talking.
Dumb question.
Yeah. That's us talking, old men talking. Okay. So going back, like say if I'm 18 years old and I don't know a lot of the experience and stuff, but the people's approval somehow inspires me to work even harder. So does it affect in any ways? Does it change as you grow older? Of course it does. But at the moment when you're 18 and you're trying to prove this thing, and it becomes, for me, growing up, it was an inspiration to prove to people. It was an inspiration and motivation to shut people down by my success, And even though I was defined by them, I was inspired to win by them. Ooh.
Yeah.
Made you think.
Well, I would say that is one of my teachers shared with me is truth is found within, but you can use verifiable teachings as a guide, right? So the answers are within, but you can use society, you can use the material world to determine, are you ascending? Are you progressing? And you can do that through therapy. You can do that through a ring. You can do that through your financial bank account, balance. There's a number of ways that we can verify, hey, am I still on the path? And so I would say it is, does it complement you, those belts, those wins, being able to show people, yeah, man, I can hang. I'm actually one of the best in the world. Absolutely. But does it define you? Or is it something that if you don't have it, you're lost? That's where I think it becomes a little bit trickier.
Well, I think as a young man, right, our drive and our way of life or the meaning of life is to make money, right, and to have things, and in that meaning of life, as we ascend to an older, we have more become wiser, we tend to grow from that, but in those times, as a young man, that's all pretty much what we have. And how would we guide young men who are kind of in that level of or seeking the approval of others, but at the same time, seeking the financial, and seeing what they see, like with the what we see in movies, or in TV or society, that you have to have this much amount of money, or you have to be this or that in order for you to be something. There's a condition, for them to be successful, they have to be this, right? So how can we lead this young man to find, I guess, solitude, find a good foundation?
Yeah, I would say that if the fact that if you're sitting here listening to this right now tells me that you're leveraging other people's experience, right? They're leveraging what you have already gone on a journey, and they're trying to fast track that, right? So leverage from people ahead of you. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The second is I think it's important to understand we have a lot of adult boys and girls in this world today. What defines a man or a woman is not that as you get older, Nonito, that your desire for impulses and urges suddenly subsides. I was mentoring these kids for years at the University of Michigan, and they're like, well, you're married, so you don't get attracted to other women now, right? And I just started laughing my butt off, right? I was like, oh my gosh, holy crap, seriously. I said, look, just because I'm married doesn't mean that the impulse and urge doesn't come up. The difference of a marker of a boy versus a man is that I've learned I don't need to act on those impulses and urges. And I think that's a big piece that's missing in our society today. Just because you have an opinion doesn't mean you have a right to express it to everyone. Just because you something that you want doesn't mean you don't have to still do the work and sweat to earn it, right? If you do it with cheating the system, you have this mental thing that goes on and goes, I didn't deserve it. I didn't earn it. I remember my first Ironman, dude. I was trashed by the time that it came to the run, right? I had like a 30-mile-per-hour headwind. My legs were fried, and I still had to run. I'd already been going for like 6 hours, and I still had to run a full marathon. And I'm running, and I was doing pretty well, and there's nobody else around me, and I'm like, oh, there's a little forest over there with the water on the lake. I could go in there and just sit there for like 4 hours and then splash some water on my face and come back. And I went, but I have to live with that for the rest of my life. I could try to fool everybody else, but that mental health thing that we're talking about on accountability is you have to live with that for the rest of your life, knowing that you lied and you cheated, right? And I couldn't do that. And so what I then learned to do, and I think you've done this, right, is if I'm 18, is to not look at it as, holy crap, I got to run 26 miles. Just run one and then walk one, run one, walk one. And that people were watching me were like, holy crap, he's getting faster. Because as I went on, I got stronger. As I went on, my legs got refreshed and recharged. I got refueled, right? And so I think the important thing in that is, and this is a marker of you, right? We talked about at what round are you going to quit? Never, right?
Yeah.
When it's over, know where that finish line is. And so I think the last piece in that is receive, reflect, respond. And in today, people receive and react. So if you're wanting to figure out how to do that, you want to be, the best at what you do, receive, reflect on it, and then respond instead of react. And I think
That's a very
when
difficult thing to do because it's it's a hard thing to do, especially when you're emotionally invested, whatever it may be, frustration, anger, or whatever. And it's
yeah, when
just
you're being triggered, right?
being triggered. To see it, to receive, and then to see it at that, and then to react after that. It's usually the other way around, where it's receive and react, and then you're like, damn, dang it.
And,
you know,
and there's a lesson in that too, right? So
yeah,
yeah, I mean, we've all been there in relationships, right? We've all been there when somebody says something that triggers us. We've all been there when, I mean, what was the fight that you had that, and we had talked about what happens if you get an injury? In your head, are you going to check out? Oh, I got an injury, I'm going to back off. And remember, it was like first or second round, and he stepped on your ankle or something. What was
yeah. It was
that?
like third or fourth round. It was Cesar Juarez in Puerto Rico, and I dropped him like 3 times, and then I twisted my ankle, and after that, he was able to press on me and hit me with a lot of punches. I was bleeding all over the place. I had a cut. My hand was messed up. I mean, and I couldn't push off with my foot because I couldn't, my foot was hurting. So there was no power coming out in my hook, and I had to battle myself every round, and there was so many excuses in my head. I'm like, hey man, you've done enough. You've done enough. You became multi-division champion. You became unified champion. You've had more than 2 belts. You're fighter of the year. I mean, there were so many things that just kept going into my head, trying to make me sit in that stool and not get up.
Yeah, and I think I can assess pretty quickly these days. I think that there's a marker, Nonito, that happens of in all of that. You're like, oh, here's what society's saying, right? I could walk away and be like, oh, I've done all this. But there's those of us that go, but what is my limit, right? Inside our head, we go, this isn't about the press. This isn't about anybody else other than me saying, I'm not giving up. I will keep going until I have victory. As my drill instructor, I remember I was in boot camp, and he said, "Pain is a reminder that you're still alive. Be grateful for it." So we have this like thing about pain is like, oh, something to avoid. Actually, pain is saying, "Hey, pay attention. I'm trying to tell you something." Right? If you put your hand on a stove and it's burning, it's painful. It's telling you something. If you're in a
Right.
relationship and you're fighting and it's painful, it's trying to tell you something. The question is are you going to pay attention and are you going to take the message? Right? So yeah, you had that pain, but you had to make that decision. And I don't think anything in society can. There's people that just go push through one more round, one more throw, right? One more dodge, whatever it is some people are just wired to go. I'm okay being knocked out. What I'm not okay with is succumbing and walking away when I know I can still fight.
I mean, that's pretty much me, man. I'd rather just go and keep trying and then keep pursuing and keep making that step than to turn around and then say, forget it, I'm done. I might as well get the hell out of the game. That's just how I am.
Yeah, and I think when you've had a loss, yeah, you go through the time, you got to go through all the mind stuff. But if you gave it all and you didn't prevail, I think you can sleep with that better than if you actually said, "No, I voluntarily quit." That I don't think that you can deal with.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
And the
the
thing is,
worst, the
what's the
worst
ratio?
feeling.
What's the ratio of how many times that you just prevailed? You said, "I'm going to get comfortable being uncomfortable," and how many times did that work in your favor?
Right.
Way more. The ankle thing
So,
was a little bit. It was like, dude, it was. I mean, it wasn't
yeah,
really.
you're the one that's limping when you walk. So don't talk about my ankle, you know? So yeah. But yeah, no, I think that's something that people need to understand, that okay, like I was trying to explain, the younger that you are, your mindset is different. As when you are older, you're much more wiser. And where we are is, we have a lot of knowledge and wisdom in our shoulders, and we tend to be more, we think more than react more. As the younger we are, we were more reactive to everything else.
Absolutely. I was going to say, when you're young, you fight with your body. When you're older, you fight with your mind. And I tell you what, man, the person I'd be afraid of is the older guy, because we don't play by the rules. There are no rules. My
See,
son, man, I'm
that's
like, I told my son, I'm like, if you think you can take me, take your best shot. You want to take the crown, take your best shot. He was like, you don't have rules, do you? I said, only one is that I win. I said, you think that there's
okay.
civility.
There you go. That's coming from you.
He's like,
No, but
yeah, I'm
yeah,
not ready yet.
I think the in order for a younger generation to really appreciate where they're at, or to see where they're at, is to be grateful for a lot of things. I think that's the thing that I've learned growing up, is the gratitude that I have allowed me to be, I guess, grounded. Because sometimes when you're seeking for all the limelights and the cars and the women and the party and all that stuff, it puts a mask on your eyes where you can't see where you're going. But I think gratitude kind of puts me back into a lot of where I'm at now in life, is it being fulfilled in my daily routine. And I think a lot of people, it eludes them. But what I'm trying to say is because a lot of people don't know how to face themselves in the mirror, and because they don't want that accountability and seeing who that person is. And a lot of people live in the past.
I think that's part of it. And I also think that Mark Devine, he's a former Navy SEAL commander, is just an incredible human being. And he said, the industrial age brought material prosperity that eliminated a lot of the natural challenges that life used to deliver, but it also brought obesity, poor health, a lack of purposeful existence, and a general malaise with an alarmingly large percentage of the population in dependency. In other words, what he said is, and I think you and I both do this, is be blessed, be grateful for those things, but there's nothing quite is good at having gratitude when you actually put yourself in positions of being uncomfortable. That's why I have a foundation. That's why I go to Guatemala for nearly 20 years now. That's why I go work with the poorest of the poor, the people who are needing. Because when I take people down, and I'll be doing that in March in a couple of weeks, is inevitably somebody goes, these people have absolutely nothing, and they seem like they're happier than us. And I go, yeah, they are. How can that be? And I say, well, think about it. And they come back and they're like, it's because they're just happy to have one meal a day. I mean, think about it, Nonito. Gratitude, we start getting entitled, we start getting comfortable. And we have to remember to get uncomfortable and be okay with that. In part of when we start getting all that stuff is that we're making the rules too bloody hard to win, right? I can't be happy until I have X amount of money in the bank account. Oh, Nonito has 11 accounts in his bank. I need 12. Oh, Nonito has the 2023 version. I only have 2022. Oh, his iPhone has the rounded edges or the square. It's comparison is the thief of joy, but we're
Yes.
making the rules too damn hard to win. So
Right.
what was it that got you in the ring in the first place? Go back to that and allow that to be the driver. If it was joy, if it was to prove yourself, whatever it is, but you're making it too
It
hard.
was to be loved by my father. It was to be
Yeah, it
loved and to
got
be
you got
respected by
attention.
my father, because I was always told that I was nothing and I could never be anything and I could never win a fight if I do go into a boxing ring. So for me, it was the love and the respect to be given to me by the people that my family, for my family. So, you know,
And
but
that gave you that place to go through that journey. That was one of your rites of passage, to be able to go through that and go, oh, I get what this represents in my relationship with my father now, right? You don't have to go in the ring anymore to get love from your father.
right, right.
So sometimes we need to go through those to actually get uncomfortable, to wake us up and actually go through and do the work.
Right. There's a question here, Cooper. Is it possible to be happy without being married, not having kids, and not having lots of married friends per se?
I think that I'd probably be a lot happier without. No,
Watch out, Jan. It's about to throw a big shoe coming at you.
shoot, shoot. Um, no, actually, it's funny because I actually believe that the more altruistic path, if you want to go on a path of enlightenment, I think it's easier to go out in the woods in solitude and become a monk and seek enlightenment. Try to do that when you have a family, right? That takes a whole lot more courage. So
Right.
is it possible that I'll sum this up as Jerry Maguire inappropriately said.
Show me the
um,
money. No.
that was not Jerry. Show me the money.
Yeah.
Said, you complete me. You don't need anybody to complete you. You're already complete. What you want to do is find a partner that complements you. So is it possible to be happy without being married? Absolutely. That marriage, that partner should be complimenting you. Your friends should be complimenting you. If your friends aren't complimenting you, how are they really a friend? Right? So is it possible? Absolutely. I don't need, God forbid if anything ever happened to my family, but I would choose, and I would hope that they would choose for me to want to go on and be fulfilled and happy in life. And I've lost loved people. And I think there's a misnomer, and people say silly things. Oh, just give it time, or, all wounds are healed. No, I think if somebody actually impacts you, there's always a hole that's in your heart, and that's okay. That means that they made a difference in your life. But that doesn't have to be a spouse. That doesn't have to be kids. I've got a college buddy of over 30 years, and he's like a brother to me, right? So we can choose. That's
Okay.
it. That's all I got.
I thought you were gonna say you had me at hello, but yeah, that's good enough. You
And you're
know.
like, dude, that was the dumbest answer I've ever heard. I mean, oh,
Yeah, exactly. No.
yeah, I know.
So yeah, for me though, I think what people want to ask too, and I said it earlier about moving on from a loss, and how can people, because for me, one of my biggest key factor of moving from a loss was accountability, that it happened already. I'm like, it happened, I can't do nothing about it, I can't rewind time, and therefore, you know what can I do instead of thinking about it? What can I do of dissecting it and getting my information to better myself? Again, I guess what I'm trying to say is ask the better question rather than the question that derails you back in a cycle of the downward cycle, right?
Yeah, I would say there's two things that come to mind. One is to um, to understand in that you need to separate the difference between, was there a mistake or do I have a regret, right? I've made a ton of mistakes. If you look at any leader, you look at any professional athlete, they've probably made more mistakes than you've had successes. You can't win without making mistakes. They're there to teach you. Oh, thanks. I'm glad I got that over with. Don't do that again. If you have regrets, is a totally different thing, right? So have I made some big mistakes in life? Absolutely. Do I have any regrets? No, I don't. Okay, that's the first thing. The second I would say is in that is to really kind of look at that and say, okay, that didn't define me, but it certainly is going to be a memory. And what do I want to do about it? So the question is whether you're going to get back in the ring and give it your all. But there was a second piece in there that you said, and I forgot what the second. What was the question again? That was really great.
Yeah, don't worry, we're just kind of
No,
just chopping it up,
well,
but
you're asking, if you go through. Oh, the second is accountability. You need to be accountable, to sit with it and say, am I learning from this? Right? If you're just avoiding it, you're going to repeat the same mistakes down the road, most likely.
yes, and that's the thing, that's the thing that people are taken aback by is facing it. Anything that hurts, people want to run away from it or hide it in the back, And I think that's something that people have to be encouraged. Like you said, you have to feel that uncomfortable and just got to get through it and break yourself into that level of making it a part of you where when you think about it, it no longer feels awkward or uncomfortable. And facing it is definitely the key factor to dissect a learning lesson in all the pain and setbacks that we go through. At least for me, that's what happened in moving on from a loss or from anything that I felt I didn't want to face.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference between pain and suffering, right? If you want to be a world champion, pain is going to be part of the formula. Pain is going to be one of the ingredients that go along with the journey, right? But I would say that we then need to look at the guilt part of it. And guilt's really the origin of guilt is the disparity of what we're taught that we should be versus who we perceive that we really are. And so we suffer by clinging to, but here's what I was supposed to be versus here's who I really am. And that's where I was going to go with it is when you're in that situation, Nonito. I think when you and I were working, I was like, dude, great, have the time to go through and process this, and then stop asking the question why. The brain loves the question why. But you
Why?
said ask a better question. A better question is a
Why?
what or a how. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to mute his microphone? I can't. Damn it. But a what
Right.
and a how question, that you can take ownership of. That you can take accountability and say, I'm going to get back in the ring. I'm going to build some muscle. I'm going to work on my skill. Whatever it is, I'm going to get a life coach to help me with the crap that's going on in my head. A why question, use limited. What and how, much more useful.
So when do you use the why? How big is your why?
Well, I mean, when I look in the mirror and I'm like, why am I so handsome? Like George Clooney calls and asks, how did I get?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just threw up a little bit, but it's okay. I appreciate you coming out here, so I'll give you much
Where's
love.
your wife?
She's right here, just
She's
monitoring me.
throwing up
That's
a little
all.
bit in her mouth too. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
it.
But yeah, so
So what is a why question? Gratitude. Why am I so blessed? Man, let the brain just dive in on that, right? A why question can be useful in why am I so lucky? Um, I I really it's funny because I'm actually a why person. If we're trying to understand, if we want to listen, it's a great area for why. And it drives other people insane, right? I'm like the little kid that never grew out of the why. Tony
yeah,
was
you know how many whys I hear every morning? Papa, why? Well,
yeah.
because this and this and this. Why? Because this and this and this and this and that. Why? Yeah. So,
I'm a why person, and I've had to learn to filter and shut that down at times. And I also have to have awareness because it really, like, my wife will be like, "Stop it!" I'm like, I'm just trying to understand. So I'm the psychology and the coach. I'm always trying to understand. Not, and at the end of that is not that I'm going to agree, but it is also not that I'm judging. I'm trying to understand so that I can figure out, oh, that's good information, process that, or oh, that's information I don't need, get rid of it, right? Oh, you did that and it screwed up, great. Make a note, don't do that myself. So a why is great for us to be able to receive, reflect, right? And then respond. A why is a good place for reflection. A why is a good place for us to get still and ask those inner questions that help us grow. A how and a what are great for us to take action.
right. I
Take
100%
ownership.
agree with that because for me, for a very long time, I would ask the wrong question after a defeat or after a setback. And I would say, why is it happening to me? Why this and this and this and that? Why am I why didn't I show up that day? You know, and I've come to learn to ask the how and what. You know, when the why comes in asking the question, you know, I usually kind of change that now to how and what. How can I better myself? What am I to do to uh to to improve, you know, so that I don't create this experience again. So for me, I, you know, that's something that I have come to understand for myself.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm interested in the story, the journey behind how did you get all those belts on the wall behind you, dude, that's a great why question. If I want to know how to do it myself, then I'm going to say how, right? A why isn't going to do crap for me to be able to go and get those belts myself. Probably. I'd have to think about it a little bit, but on the surface, I'm thinking you're better served if I want to know how to do that. I'm going to ask a how or Nonito, what do I need to do to get those as well? A
Right.
why, entertainment value.
Mm. So there you have it, folks. You know, asking yourself the right question can allow you to move on from setbacks and allow you to get to the place you want to be, even with or without setbacks. Just asking the right question for yourself can lead you to find the path that you're looking for.
What am I supposed to
So
add something to that? No,
yeah,
I got
but
nothing.
don't put
Put
anything, because
put
all that cool stuff
full
that I
stop.
just said, you might ruin it, man. That was so cool, man. That was so
I know.
smooth. That was so cool.
It
So
was like
don't
full
mess it
stop.
up, okay?
I can't. I got nothing. Thank you, Obi-Wan.
Yeah, yes. I'm gonna bring Rachel in here. If she have any question, Miss Rachel, please do come in here. Huh? 2 seconds. She's doing still, you know, all the parental work, because now I'm you know, I'm just chilling. So she's doing the homework and all that stuff.
All
So
right. So here's what question I have for your audience. Why are you tuned in? Here's a good place for a why question. Why did you tune in tonight or afternoon, whatever time it is for you?
hmm, please do answer that.
Will he take audience?
Why don't we put the are you okay to have some people come up in here to ask you a question or to ask them question?
Sure, man. You
All
bet.
right. Sounds good. So, hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys have any question, you know,
Cam on or off?
yeah, camera on and off. Hold on. Let me there it
Maybe
is.
some people don't want to ask for their camera.
Yeah, so feel free to come join us, you know, and
Let me while you're figuring out who that is, I see the question about what do I think of antidepressant pills, and I think I put that in the same category of why do you take vitamins? Because our food system today doesn't have all the nutrients that we may need. Some people don't have all of the chemicals and all of the assist that they need. The body may have, just like if you have a thyroid issue, or you have light skin and you can't go out in the sun. Not every body has the ability to produce everything that it needs, and so sometimes we need to have the courage to say, hey, I need to go and get some support for that. So yeah, I'm a big fan of, for people who need that support and help, it's just an assist, right? It's a responsible thing to do. So I'm a big advocate of, I take vitamins, I take minerals. I have family members that have antidepressants, and for me, when I lived in the north in the state of Michigan, Nonito, I think you knew I had to use a blue light for seasonal affective disorder because there's not enough sunlight. So
right.
because you make that decision, I think makes it a courageous decision. It doesn't mean something's wrong with you or that you're not enough. In fact, it just means, hey, you're not getting enough of something that you might need some help with.
Well, some people are saying they came in here, their why was because of the insight. From Ben Adams saying because Nonito is a world champ, and Big Money saying accountability is a topic is always intriguing to me.
Yeah,
So
because I think that we struggle seeing enough of it today, right? And or um, people mistaking accountability for judging others. But I would say accountability is an inside job. So I think you hit a nerve and you found that you've got a topic here that benefits people who are aspiring to um, create something meaningful in their life. I mean, it's an important topic, and I think for me, I applaud you for having the courage to get on here and actually have this conversation because, as you and I know, it goes hand in hand with the journey to getting that belt.
Right. Is that the right link, by the way? Because I just copied and paste, but I don't know.
Where did
Actually,
you
I
get
just
the
pressed
link?
paste. I just pressed paste
From where?
from up here,
Yeah,
but
that's the right link.
it's gone. So I want to
Never,
see.
Rachel, never give him the con, man.
Can
Oh my
you
goodness.
just
Keep,
Can I
refresh?
actually get it? Hold on.
Okay.
give
On
him the
here.
Etch a Sketch back. Never give him command.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, it's the wrong link, guys. Hey, so don't click on that old link. I'm actually gonna pin this link up to the top of the chat. So sorry if you went
People,
to something else, this random YouTube link.
they're
Yeah.
up in some la la land.
Yeah, they're like, who are these people? This is not the link I was thinking of. But yeah, I'm pinging the actual link because I know we pinged two. Let's see.
Yeah, you take that out.
Yeah, I can. Yes, actually I can.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Yeah, my apologies. I'm not very technical when it comes down to more like I it's difficult for me to be doing two things at one time. So there we go.
Is that it? The 9G?
Yeah, so yeah, we put it up there.
No, this one.
Oh, there you go. All right, so she's putting it back up there.
Hmm.
Perfect. Yeah.
Oh, it was H's link. How in the world did H's link get there? My bad.
Look,
Bye,
just like
Robin.
every great athlete has a coach behind the scenes. Every great athlete has the mastermind behind the scenes, and I think we all know who that is in this power couple. Okay, I'm just
Guys, the
This is the link,
PTR
y'all.
link is pinned to the top.
Okay, it's pinned to the top. So, if you guys got any question, you guys want to, or he might ask you a question of things because he's very good at asking question. You just want to say, why am I not hitting you in the face?
you haven't paid me enough yet. By the way,
Yeah.
so yeah, we have a little banter, right? It is like you step into my mental ring and get your butt handed to you every once in a while. Make no mistake, I am not dumb enough to ever step in his ring. No, not going to happen. Plus, you wouldn't hit a geriatric person like me, would? Yeah, you probably would too.
With the peg leg, don't you?
Yeah,
You got a peg leg, so
dude, the leg is solid, man. I'm getting ready to go ski.
Well, Big Money saying here, being accountable is important to being focused on your purpose.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. So what's purpose? What is your purpose? Society is going to tell you that it's a job title, it's a career, it's defined by material attainment. And I think that society is doing a disservice because if you really want to know the truth about what your purpose is how do you want to feel every day? It's the emotions and feelings that you want to reach or replicate each and every day. So why do you step in the ring? Because it results in you getting certain feelings, certain
But,
emotions.
but again, I want to go back into it. Does it changes though as in your age, in the in being young, being in the middle, being an older gentleman, or being an older person, being a younger person? That purpose, does it change? That as compared to, is it a is a one thing fit all? You know what I'm saying? So
They've done studies on it, and statistically, the sad thing is, I guess you could look at it a couple different ways, Nonito, but like 82% of the world wants to live in tribal order. In other words, 80% of the world chooses to live in ignorance and entertainment. That's all that they care about. Okay.
wow.
It's a smaller percentage, okay, of that, which is what, like 18%, that actually chooses to look for more. They actually start asking the questions. And so if your purpose is how do you want to feel, what emotions do you want to experience every day? For most of us, that doesn't change. And for me, for about 50 years, it was pretty consistent, right? And some of those were to love, to feel adventure, a sense of adventure, a sense of excitement. Now, as I'm kind of like moving into a different phase as an empty nester. My son's off at university. My wife and I have a lot more time on our hands. And I'm really refining who I will and won't work with that I can serve. I'm finding actually my purpose is moving more into gentleness and kindness. And adventure's still there, but the other things are kind of bubbling to the surface. So I would say for some people, yeah, it does. For people who have gone after the brass ring, who've really said, "I'm going to try to see what my limit is," then I think that does hold true that it can change. But for most of us, pretty much stays consistent.
But do you feel that the as the years progress, it seems that people are starting to open up and becoming, I think the shift in numbers might be on people and their freedom of rather than being in the old ways of living. You know what I'm saying? Do you feel that people are starting to transcend to the other side?
Yeah, I think that we have Yuval Harari wrote a book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. And in one of those lessons, by the way, he predicted the pandemic and how we would respond to the pandemic. Those 21 lessons are really powerful. As part of that, he also said we are going to reach a point in society where people will serve absolutely no purpose to the world, and we're going to have to choose whether to pay them to just simply exist. And so I think that we're seeing there's been some mental challenges, highest number of suicides in like over 100 years, and now we're starting to see that pendulum tip a little bit. Why? Because people have gotten uncomfortable. People had to decide. We're waking up going, what is my purpose? In part of our purpose is this innate internal sense of we have to contribute to society. And if we don't feel that contribution, I saw somebody was they lost their mother. I'm sorry that you lost your mom and you've lost your passion. How you can regain that passion is through taking accountability of those uncomfortable emotions. And maybe that's a great place for a therapist, but it's to say, what were the feelings and the emotions you got through your mom, right? What was it that lit you up? What was it that excited you about that relationship with her? Then we can take those and find what other vehicles can replicate those emotions and experiences, right? So when we look at you and Rach as an example, why are you guys together? Because that partner brings up emotions and feelings more that we want than the ones that we don't want. So to really, and not to objectify people, but everything we do is just a symbol to attain or to experience certain emotions and feelings. And if you can figure that out, why do you step in a ring? You know, why did I go in the Marine Corps? Well, brotherhood, right? Loyalty, sense of adventure, wanting to see what my limits were. All of those things I can go, okay, I can't do that. But what other vehicles can I get those same feelings from? Oh, let's see, I could go be a triathlete. Oh, let's see, I could go watch one of my clients win a Super Bowl or win a world title, right? So if we understand those roots, Nonito, we can pick them up and put them into other vehicles and have that sense of purpose again.
I think at the same times the key ingredient is they got to be willing to do it.
Yeah, when somebody chooses, for example, to go on a spiritual pursuit, in I love when people are like, "Oh, I'm going to go on this spiritual pursuit." The first part is the decision and the choice to do that, but the second is the follow through and taking action. So you're absolutely correct, right? The first is you can make a choice, but you have to be willing to follow through. You have to be willing to take accountability and say, "I'm going to show up in the gym every day." Right? You're not going to get there if you're not showing up on time. You're not going to get there if you're not respecting your coach's time in your own.
Okay, there you have it, Ben Adams. you know, it's the thing they say at times that time heals, but only when one is willing for to take in the accountability that what, it's never going to be the same. But if you're living in the past, it's always going to be in pain, you know. And you got to make that choice to live your life and move to the next phase, you know, because there's things that we don't have any control over. We're depressed is because we can't control something that we want so bad, but doesn't mean that we can't find the glory of joy in other things. And like Chad said, you know, replicating that emotion, and where can you find that emotion to live life? Because I think that what we have is this moment in living, and making that choice to live.
It's courageous to make that choice to live. It's courageous to, and I love the metaphor of a boxing ring, right? Because we get in and we go through these fights in our mind in throughout life constantly. And I used to work on the the characteristic of forgiveness, right? Everybody's been hurt by somebody, right? Everybody, I mean, the referee made a bad call, right? I mean, tell me that you haven't been in the ring and the referee didn't make a bad call and you had to work on forgiveness. What I found was more powerful than that, Nonito, was letting go. If you
Mm,
let go, there's no need for forgiveness.
right.
If you
Tell
let go,
her, not me. I'm like water. I just go with the flow. You know, I'm just like making it flow. You
Wait,
know.
wait, 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 wait. What do you mean like me?
I'm just saying.
What?
Huh?
What?
thank you. Yeah, thank you,
Letting
Stephanie.
go.
Let go
Let
what?
it go. Let it go.
Let go what?
Just instead of forgiveness, which it's very difficult for you to forgive in the first place, instead of forgiveness, just let it go, because there's no need to forgive when it's been
Can we have
flown.
an example? I mean, like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
I'm just saying, letting
Let go
go.
what?
Just anything that there's emotional turmoil of things, and you find it.
Whatever causes you in the morning to get into that mental boxing ring, whatever it is that you're fighting, right? I'm the way I am because mom and dad, whatever, or somebody who's wronged you at some point in life. Why? Because they're trying to meet their needs. They weren't trying to like. I mean, we all know how many things Nonitos, done before Rach, and you're going to be sainted, really. I mean, you're doing the penance for all of humanity right now. We all get that right now and appreciate that. But with that is understanding that each of us is, if I've wronged my wife, it's because I'm just trying to meet my needs. And I'm not thinking about the offense that it may happen or that may occur to that person. But accountability is actually not being prompted to apologize. Accountability is the ability to have that self-awareness. And my wife and I were talking about like where we're going to go. I want to go on a African safari. We're going to go. I mean, all the like literally 5 different trips. Right? I know it's
He's
tough.
one of those ones that's gonna get eaten by the lion
Yep,
because he wanted to
yeah,
go pet it.
yep, yeah. He's
They're
one of
so
those guys.
cuddly.
No, he's gonna be one of those guys.
See, and he has to take
No,
accountability
he's gonna be
on
one.
why the lion bit his
Yeah,
ass.
yeah. The lion bit me.
And then I'm going to
He's gonna be one of
sue.
those guys that's gonna wear
I'm
a
a
lion suit to hang out with the lion.
and
Yep.
I'm a victim and I'm going to sue. Okay, so what happens is when so my wife and I, right, is like I started going into this. What we can't do as many trips because you're so bloody expensive. You buy all of this shit, right? And it was like, oh, and she got really pissed off as she should have. And so after about 20 minutes, if you want to have a healthy marriage, you go, I need 20 minutes, and you come back. And if you need another 20 minutes, you walk away. So after 20 minutes, she comes back, and I said, look, I realized that the way I approached this triggered you. And I actually need to take the responsibility to not like just spew as I'm going through the process, but to sit back and actually figure it out so that I'm not accusing you. Because here's the reality is you're only going to fly certain like first class, and that impacts how many flights we can take, right? Because first class going to New Zealand's a lot more expensive. So in
Yeah.
that process is like she could choose to forgive me, or she could just simply let it go. See, when you forgive, you're still holding on to that piece somewhere in the back of your mind. But if you let
Right.
it go, there's nothing more to forgive. You just go, okay, yeah, they were just trying to meet their need. They're an idiot. They're a jackass, and moving on.
See,
Jackass.
that's what I do.
Okay,
I just cuss
whatever.
out anybody
You
that's
do cuss
pissing me
everybody
out,
out.
and then I'm like, bye, you don't exist.
Right, right. I just let it go. So I don't
Yeah, so like
deal
Rage,
with any of
if you're dealing with a fight and trying to manage that, right, and then they do something really stupid to piss you off, and it's intentional to that they do that, you can
Yeah.
try to forgive them, which is harder for, I think it's harder for women. This could be a totally misogynistic statement, but I don't think so. But I think it is actually harder for women to let go or to forgive than men. Men are too stupid. We were like, what? I forgot all about
He's like,
that.
I was just, yeah, we have other
Okay,
focuses.
yeah. So I think like he just lets it go, and I let it go with a label. So for me, I'm like, yeah, I get it. You're just stupid.
So this is something that we have in our individual personality. But let me ask this question first, though. Mark Day, Coop, how does one find motivation after a deep personal loss to avoid stagnating in place?
I would say it's a great place to probably process that loss. Are we talking a personal loss or career loss or
Is any
competitive loss?
losses?
Any loss? I tell you what, man, sometimes that's a great place to go sit on a couch with the therapist, right? And then from there, when you've made peace with that, then that's a great place for a coach. In doing that, you have to make peace with it, Nonito, in order to actually say, okay, I'm going to take accountability and now move from the why. So therapy is a lot of why that gets you to the point where you can actually say, I'm going to stop asking a why question and I'm going to ask a what or a how.
So my
that
process is never really to make peace with it. You know, I make peace with it through the process. For me, it would be seeing things as that time is not gonna rewind, regardless what I try to do. You know, so I would always say that it happened. To see it for the way it is what I'm saying. My process would always be to see it for what it is. That hey, I lost, I got knocked out, right?
Mhm.
And I can't take it back. But I go into the gratitude because I'm like, you know what? I'm safe, I'm healthy, I have another chance. You know, and then I go into the process of where did I go wrong and what can I do to improve myself to become better again to the next time that I step inside the ring. So that is the process that I usually go to in order, for me to kind of get from one place of pain to a place of excitement again.
I think that works really well for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a great process that can serve a lot of people.
But I had this question, Chad. Is it wrong to love animals more than people?
Is it easier to love animals more than people?
Is it
Absolutely.
is
I
it
know. Is it
wrong?
wrong?
Yeah, to love animals more than people.
I don't know. I mean, loving, I don't see anything wrong with loving. If you find it easier to love an animal more than people, I think that we tend to love animals easier and more because animals don't judge us, right? We can have a bad day and you walk in the door
Yeah.
and you have a bad day and the dog's like, hey, how are you? Right. And let's be honest, some people mistreat animals and then they turn around 10 minutes later and they're like, you want to go play? Right. It is animals don't judge us. And so it is easier to probably love animals more than people because they let it go. Humans tend to have a hard time letting it go.
Right, right, and that's what we were talking about. Letting
Yeah.
go,
Yeah. So
or
I
even
think that as you
forgiveness,
get
right?
older, you get past the forgiveness.
Right.
Animals are a duck is my one of my absolute all-time favorite animals. Like, you're saying I'm
A
still kind of
what?
a
A
mama's
what?
boy. If I'm ever going to get a tattoo, I don't know, did I ever tell you this? If I was ever going to get a tattoo, it'd be a mallard duck because they're just so tough, right? Now,
A word "duck" in the boxing lingo is someone who would run away from a fight.
yeah, exactly. I mean, they represent such masculine, prowess and toughness.
Quack.
But what I love about a duck is that they just shake it off. If you ever see two ducks go at it, when they're done, they just shake it off. And that's what animals do so easily is they just shake it off and they're like, you want to go play? They're just happy to be fed and pet.
Ted, I grew up with ducks and I hate ducks. I hate
I'm not
ducks.
surprised.
Oh,
Yeah.
I will. But I love pecking ducks. Those things are good.
That's
I just don't like
delicious.
ducks. They keep trying to mess with me.
Uh-huh.
They're mean. Ducks are mean. I don't like ducks. I want to kick them every single time I see those damn thing. So
Yeah, they
yeah,
can't
duck is
make
a
a mess
duck. I
everywhere.
don't like a duck.
I love ducks because of what they represent, and they are also very delicious. They're really yummy. So they serve multiple purposes.
I'm
So-
just saying, but when you say a duck in the boxing world, they have people in mind, and all of that stuff. So
Why do you think I don't have a tattoo? Okay, I'm well aware of what it represents. Thank you. But look, if an animal allows you to build the muscle of love so that you can then apply that more to humans, by all means, man, go for it. Build it up that way. Build up your tolerance so that you can tolerate humans a little bit easier. Sometimes we're tough to love.
What's very difficult to do is like everybody's different, right? And when they're different, they have this,
I see Paul von Art or Peter von Art. I suppose if that's what you're into, I'm gonna take that from how I think he means that, but
the duck,
yeah,
the duck,
sorry, squirrel.
squirrel. Yeah, I mean, just put some peanut butter and all, you're good to go.
It's kind of how I was taking it. I'm like, okay, dude, good humor right there.
Yeah, no, but I think whatever, because people go through a lot of things, and to be honest with yourself, I mean, like you said, sometimes an animal, and they can sense it, like when we would fight and stuff like that, and we would have this emotional turmoil, and we're feeling some type of way. Usually the dogs would always sit next to us, and they have some ways of sensing pain,
How
internal
they sense
pain,
it?
emotional pain.
Because humans listen to the words, animals listen to the emotion. They listen to the tension,
The vibration.
the vibration. Yeah, animals
Because that's how they
listen.
know if, like, oh, the tsunami's coming, right? All the dogs and everybody else came up to the mountains,
Yeah, exactly.
But she's an animal lover, so she loves animals all day, She's like, she just wants more dogs, snakes, lizards, and I'm like,
I don't want more dogs.
why? I'm the one that's cleaning all this shit.
I saw the ferret. Ferrets are cool. Ferrets are cool as long as you keep them clean and they
No.
stink. They can be smelly.
No,
Super
but
smelly.
I change
This
the
one
thing
is
every
clean.
day.
I just chose to think he's a stinky one.
But he does what he does, and I caught him finally.
He steals shit all the time.
He steals slippers, and only one side of it. Then he'll put it underneath my bed.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah, it's actually pretty funny.
You're trying to change the nature of what a ferret is, right? So,
Yeah.
accountability is just allowing him to be what he is and then bathing him, taking the responsibility to keep them clean.
And what do I do every day?
I'm not
I
an
change
animal
the
person.
litter box,
I
like
am
most people
honestly,
don't.
I am not. In
I
what?
can see dogs probably bite you. They probably,
No, the dogs are afraid of me. They
Yeah, I can
freaking piss
understand.
when I'm around me.
I know.
I ooze the masculinity, so the dogs are like,
No,
oh,
it's not actually. They're like, look at that sissy. We're gonna toughen him up. So that's
no. But
Mhm.
she loves dog, and I like dogs more than anything. Like for me, I like dogs because dogs are, they're. I mean, I have a dog, a blind dog, but the reason I got him was because I connected with him. He was the runt, and nobody wanted him. So you know what? I want this dog. So.
And now he's blind and has short-term memory. He has dementia.
See, look,
And now,
my friend Boa
I,
ate his
I
dog.
will, I will never get that time back. Thank you for that special story.
It was still cool. Jeez. Yeah. No.
If you want your life coach to support you by demeaning you.
By the way, guys, if you just tuned in, this is my life coach, a really good friend of mine, Chad Cooper, and he is just amazing when it comes down to answering questions, but he is a little bit of a dick when it comes down to me. So don't mind him when it comes down to.
He's just calling you out.
I know.
Yeah,
You always
he's
do
just
that to me.
he's just
If
like you. I
you
don't
learn
pull
calling out,
punches.
the biggest dick would be this one. Because she'll call out, and I'm just like, I.
She loves me because, like you, I don't pull punches, and that's what you need.
Yeah, she kicks me, by the way.
Yeah.
Well deserved. I can guarantee it. Put money on that.
Everything else is always well deserved, man. When I do something, I take credit for it. Okay, whether it's good or bad, that is my accountability. Good or bad, I take it. Oh yeah. So
That works.
but yeah, I mean, I hope you guys learned something from our conversation today about accountability. Chad, you're amazing, man. Always, great insight to everything
The
else.
boxing scholar. I appreciate you. See his comment there.
What is that?
He's a
Chad
dog
inspired me
whisperer.
to supersize my meal in the McDonald's line. So I'm glad that
There you
inspired
go.
somebody today.
There you go, Chad. So
There
Yeah.
was a, I
Nice.
think Peter said earlier that there's people that are in love with their
I'm
he said
in
that
love.
people no, he said that there are people that are in love with their robot vacuum cleaners nowadays.
Robot vacuum cleaners.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And my dad called me out and he's like, "Are you talking about Rachel? Okay, leave my robot vacuum cleaner mop alone. Okay, that thing is wonders.
It's the bomb diggity.
Yeah, it is taken. I mean, and I have to manage her. I have to tell her what room to clean and how many times to clean it.
Well,
So
I'm not touching that. That's
Yeah.
just too easy.
I do have a question though. How do you help people from always trying to supersize their food, always loving their food?
so random.
No, we're just talking about food. It's just
Accountability to food
accountability. Because it's accountability. How would they put it in their mind to be accountable for that?
for their choices of food and supersizing their food.
Yeah, I mean, just not even just supersize, just the food intake, just because for me, for a very long time, and this, I love food. I would eat the crap out of everything, man. I love food, and I would eat
He
to the
ignored
point.
his what is that called? His internal mechanism that told him like, "Hey, I'm full."
Yeah, and I would just keep going. I would just keep going and going and going.
Well, there's a lot that can go into that. In short, as you guys know, my wife almost died like almost a year and a half ago, right? And as a result of that, out of like sheer desperation, we went to Norway, and the process saved her life. And through that process, part of it was taking accountability for really eating a super clean diet. And what I learned in that is, in large part, Nonito, you're being set up to lose, right? The game is not set fairly, and it is stacked against you. The food that we have today is one. So I always love when somebody goes, "Oh, I'm going to just start eating all vegetarian and eating lots of fruits and vegetables," only to find out you got like this bowl of spinach that is completely void of any nutritional value because we've raped the land. Okay. You can argue with it, go do the research. I'm not here to debate it with you, right? I'm here to tell you that you think you're eating healthy food. And all I have to do is I went up to in my last, well, the hunt before last that we won't get into, this last one that you made fun of my hat.
Yeah, the one that
But
you look like Indiana Jones going into a hunt.
my 17 layer beaver pelt that is absolutely manly is a cowboy hat
Yeah,
that
that made you
you
look
just
like Indiana Jones.
made me look like the Marlboro Man. Yes, that hat, not Indiana Jones. Okay. But anyway, so we had friends over, and then the neighbors came over, and so I put like Whole Foods organic filet mignon next to a Publix grocery store USDA Prime, right? Another good quality. It made the Publix, and I'm not ripping on Publix. What I'm simply saying is I put the store bought next to organic, and it made the store bought look dead and gray. Then I pulled out a piece of moose off the land in Newfoundland, and it made the organic look dead and gray. That's how far we are off the food scale today, people. Okay. So
Wow.
understand that the game is not being fair. They're not giving you the nutritional value you need. Okay. So what can you do? Well, I think you need to look at where you're sourcing and choosing your food. But in terms of the quantity, what I started to do is actually use an app called Lose It. And it wasn't because I was trying to lose weight, or which is, would imply the name of the app. But what I do is I actually am like 478 days in a row where I track everything I eat. And by doing that, Nonito, what I was able to do is go, oh, here's how much I've consumed. Here's what I still have available. It gave me awareness. So accountability, part of that is awareness, right? Is you think that you're eating something, and here's how it's so rigged, is you're like, oh, I'm eating this, that's yogurt. How many of us think that yogurt's really healthy? Dude, put it into the system. It is so full of sugar. It's ridiculous. So you're being told, oh, eat this, it's healthy. Remember when we were told that butter was bad and margarine was good? No, because you weren't born yet. You're freaking too young. But there was a time. Then we came back, and now butter's good for it.
Yeah, when the TVs were black and white. I didn't have
Right.
TV growing up. I didn't even have
You had
electricity
the
growing
rotary
up.
phone.
No.
No, the phone that
Oh,
goes,
yeah.
Great question. It actually comes back to accountability, and that's being aware of what you're actually putting in, because what you're being told is not necessarily accurate, right? So by using an app called Lose It, I can actually look at it, and then I'm able to, here's how I honestly look at it and use it. It's like, oh, I had a salad for lunch. That means I can have a double scotch in the afternoon, right? It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm only eating tofu and all this other crap. No, I eat healthy, and I also eat my Vice gummy bears right there. Okay.
See?
I'm not a
salad and then double scotch enough.
And gummy bears,
And gummy
apparently.
bears. Yeah.
Is it mixed with something? Did you bake it?
They're THC, no. But so with that is like, my wife eats super clean. She can't have dairy, can't have sugar, can't have gluten. I've actually chosen to remove gluten from my diet. It's a choice. It's not an allergic. By doing that, I dropped 8 pounds within like 2 weeks just by
Wow.
cutting out gluten. And there's a lot of I'm not missing it whatsoever. So some of the foods you're eating, Rachel, you're like, oh yeah, you're ignoring the thing that says that you're full. No, that shit is actually being told not to turn off, right? It's actually being suppressed. So you got to dig into it, and I think that's accountability is taking a look at not just cramming crap down your gullet because it's easy and convenient. That's what they want you to do.
Right.
Mark Nash said gummies are awesome.
And gummies are awesome.
Dude, I'm not a heathen. It's about quality of life, okay?
Hey, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
He is a double scotch,
Delicious.
double champagne. See?
You know what? I'm gonna get a scotch with you today, one of these days, man. I'm gonna do it tonight. Actually, I've been in keto, so I've been doing keto stuff. And everything hits me so damn hard when I'm drinking something.
Well, yeah.
And I'm like,
Scotch is actually the most keto friendly.
oh, perfect. That's what I have tonight. How about that?
Yeah. Everything's a balance, though, right? And so when I was on the Ironman circuit, I was super, super fit. I was like 7% body fat. What did you get down to, like 6 or something stupid, something silly?
Like 5 maybe, or
Yeah.
something like
I've
that.
never been that low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unhealthy. So here's the point. I was like at 6 or 7%, I think 7%. Super fit was not healthy. There's a big difference between being fit and healthy. Know the difference. There's a difference between mental illness and mental health. Know the difference, right? Here's a question. How do you know if your life coach is good? Are you getting results? So do you have defined goals? When you actually work with your coach, are you working on those goals, or are you allowing your coach to work on whatever you talk about in that outcome? So when I work with my clients, I ask them before they have to turn in a form 24 to 48 hours ahead of time. What did you commit to? what did you actually do? And what do you want to walk away with as your outcome today? How is that outcome tied to your goals that we're working towards? And I just had a client last week, like bring something that wasn't on his goals. And I said, look, do you want to add this to your goals, or is it really important and we should just add it, or do we want to skip it? Because this is what you said you're coming for. So
Right.
accountability means that the coach is holding you accountable. What does accountability mean? It means that when you say you're going to do something, I consider it's a done deal, right? You
Right.
do what you say you're going to do. And if you're not, then that coach is helping you understand what got in the way. Is it excuses? Is it a poor story? Is it psychology? Is it that you had things outside of your control? That's what we want to look into, and what they help you do is get rid of the roadblocks. If you're not getting that, take ownership. You're accountable for your results, not your coach, and you need to
Uh,
hold your coach accountable. And you need to have that courageous, respectful but courageous conversation, Nonito, right? It's like, hey man, I came and I'm just not feeling like we're making enough progress, or whatever that is.
right.
Don't be a dick, right? I
Right.
mean, be
Right.
respectful.
If you guys are tuning in, this is a really good friend of mine and my life coach, Chad Cooper, who has been giving us tremendous amount of knowledge tonight. A lot of wisdom coming from this guy. He's, I think, Abraham Lincoln's age, but but he's
I was
incredible,
there. I
incredible,
was there
and
for
just
the Gettysburg Address.
what was that?
I was there for the Gettysburg Address.
Yeah, you did. 4 score and 7 years ago, right? I used to remember that.
So I guess like the question is, if we wanted to bring it into boxing, like accountability and all these things, like the biggest one that everyone's been talking about is Terrence Bud Crawford versus Errol Spence. And it's
Yes,
a negotiation between the two.
right,
But you have one party that's like, it's all their fault. It's all their fault.
right,
And I mean, like, how do we, like, we talk about boxers and not seeking for help, which I said that I thought he should have sought some professional people to
yes.
help him with a contract. But just the blame game, I guess, in boxing as to why the fight never happened.
And the thing too is that even though they are not there in the negotiation, they tend to fit the narrative in their mind, and they would go about it without proper information on all of that stuff. Like Chad was saying, trust and verify, but these guys were just kind of going in opinion, right? Because they really want this fight to happen, Chad. So it's one of those biggest fights that it has to happen, but things are just not falling into place.
Yeah. So I mean, I
Yeah.
guess I think the question is, when you have someone okay, so boxers today, because of the relationship of manager and promoter, some of these boxers do not have the opportunity or don't feel comfortable in stating, hey, my manager or my promoter is the one that won't let me fight you. Instead, or they will say that just to take the accountability off of themselves, to say like, oh, well, yeah, I can't get in the ring because I signed a contract with these people, and this is how it is. Instead, they'll point to the other party that has nothing to do with the negotiation
Right.
they have with their own side. So I don't even know how I'm supposed to like give you like background information without the mess of the whole thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, King Solomon, I mean, that he's been around for a couple thousand years. He said, when an honest man realizes he is mistaken, he'll either cease being honest or cease being mistaken.
Mm.
You should grow one of those things and just go like this
The
every
Fu
time you
Manchu.
talk. You just go.
I'm working on the what is it, the Dos
You go like
Equis, being the
this.
most interesting man in the room. That's the with the
Yeah,
beard.
yeah, those techies. That's all you gotta do.
So he's either cease being an honest or he's going to cease being mistaken, right? How you do that? Let me tell you, when you're a politician and you realize that you're mistaken, how you acknowledge that, you better navigate that carefully. I mean, how many Hollywood celebrities during the Me Too movement and all of these other things just totally botched when they got caught, right? There's a path that you can do that with. And as part of that is when we're dealing with a topic in the data and or the processes don't lead to the right conclusion, that's when personalities take over. That's politics, right? And so we need to understand what's going on is that somebody's not looking at the data in the process. And what's happening now is that the personalities are kicking in.
Mhm.
So what can you do? Go back to when we see that there's a mistake to go, oh yeah, I screwed up, right? Which is really hard to do. So you go, you know what? Let's look at the process. Oh, here's where it went sideways. Let's get it back on. So if we redirect it to the data or the process, we can kind of save some face. We can still keep the fight on without having to deal with the, oh, you're right or wrong, right? We can preserve the outcome.
That's good. I mean, like, I think that that's one of the biggest things. Instead of actually looking at the process and where it fell through, and avoiding that and moving forward, or addressing it and moving forward, instead of like it's your fault, it's that person's fault, it's never my fault.
Right.
I think that's what it had to be done. Like I said, it was a lot of self-reflection, how you're running your career, like
Yeah.
what choices are you making that you're in this situation right now, and the decisions he made, and whatever decision he made going forward, it is his decision, and
Yes.
he can't blame anyone else from that point on.
Well, that's the
Yeah,
thing that we're
the Japanese are really good with that. Toyota, for example. Toyota never, like you have in the automotive world, you do not stop the assembly line because it costs a crap load of money. Toyota will stop it multiple times a day because they have created a culture where they don't say that employee screwed up. The employee can at any point say, hey, something's wrong with the process or the data, and they correct it. So they don't shame the people. What they say is the data or the process is causing the person a problem.
That's an actual good insight. So Ben
Right.
Adam
I mean,
asked you help other fighters or only the champ Nonito?
some people you just can't help. But
Yeah, I know. I know.
I try. No, I've worked with, well, I mean, to be honest, I mean, you've been very generous about being transparent and letting people know the value of having multiple coaches in your corner, right? And I've had the fortunate privilege of being one of those. The reality is there's a lot of people that I've coached and they don't want you to know that secret weapon's there, right? It's a little hard to hide when you're on HBO or Showtime watching you train and your coach is there with the technical skill set. It's a whole lot easier to hide the guy who's behind the scenes in the locker room that you don't have to see, or that you're on the video, or those kind of things. So for many people, it's a secret weapon. But yeah, I've got a nice resume of other professional athletes from around the world, and been very fortunate and blessed for that.
Well, I think that it's for us. I think it's good that people see it, because if people need it, that with someone like him, especially in a male, masculine driven sport, it's like, hey, like it's not frowned upon.
Mhm.
It's not taboo to have a life coach. Things like that, where it becomes normalized.
Right.
To get additional direction,
Yeah, and it's
clarity.
okay to
Yeah.
get help. It's okay, to seek help,
Or guidance.
or guidance. Yes.
Mhm.
Because like for me, it came to a point that, I just, everything around me was falling apart and I just needed help. And that was the time when I met you. So, and here I am.
Oh my God. Please don't start singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to keep my reputation intact. Don't go and hit me up, because then
No, but I don't think we want to, hold Chad too long,
Yes.
especially as a Sunday.
Right.
We don't want Janet to come.
No, I
swinging with
know.
us.
I know. Thank you. Thank you. brother.
Janet's been in bed a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let me just say to everybody out there is there's really not that many people. Sunday is the Sabbath for me, and Sunday is a day of rest. But when you guys, were like, "Hey, would you like to come on?" These are two of the finest people in it that I know that I'm absolutely blessed and grateful to have in my life, and love to be around. So when you guys said, "Hey, would I jump on?" Yeah, I'm honored and thank you guys for the opportunity to be able to share that message with those that are out there.
Well, you
Thank
know me,
you.
for me, I'm always been the type to bring value to the world. Like, I'm blessed with my life. I'm blessed with an amazing partner. I'm blessed with a friend like you, blessed with my kids. I'm blessed with so many things. And I want to give that love to people too, that they can make things happen, that they can create their life into from a place of pain to a place of joy, by just making that choice and by taking accountability and and owning up to every thought, words, and action into that very person that you want to become, and thank you for being here and taking the time. I know it was short notice. I just called you. I'm like, hey, do you think I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, but thank you. I really
Anytime.
appreciate you. And I know you miss my voice talking to you because I just been kind of like, disappearing here and there. So
No, Chad, we'll give you a call later. Well, I'll call you tomorrow because there's
yeah.
some stuff I want to talk to you about anyway.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, brother.
sounds
I
good.
appreciate you.
Do
Thank
you
you,
want
coach.
to drop like your
Yeah.
website or anything like that?
No, I'll
Your
just, you know what? Anybody who wants, I'll make it real easy. Just shoot me an email, chad@chadecooper.com. Use an echo, or you can throw it in the chat. So you can
Yeah.
go to the website is that as well. So,
Chad,
if yep, chad@chadecooper.com. Happy to help. I'll be out of the country here later this week. So if I don't respond, it's because I'm out of the office a little bit, but get to go see Wyatt and spend a little bit of time with him skiing. So I'm looking forward to that. So
thank you. Thank
we'll
you,
grab a
Coach Chad
scotch
Cooper.
sometime. And I'm not talking about you, Nonito. I'm talking about your wife, who I definitely rather
I'm
spend more
still gonna
time
give
with.
you a big clap.
As long as I'm not taking photos anymore.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
Thank you so
much.
Thanks.
much, Chad, for all your wisdom and your time. Thank you.
Thank
You got it,
you.
And
guys.
say hi to the family.
We'll do.
Thanks. Bye. All right, guys. So that was Chad Cooper. I don't know how much of an introduction you gave earlier, but basically, like everybody, what we want to normalize is asking or seeking guidance,
Yeah.
and that doesn't make you any less of a man at all,
Or a woman or
or
a man.
woman.
Yeah.
Just speaking about you,
This
but
person.
anyway,
I know. I
you
know
know,
you.
and these are the things that we talk about it, and how it segues into boxing. There are people, there are fighters in boxing that believe, they've reached the pinnacle and they can never, there's nothing else they could learn, right? And they've said that, and doing so limits your capability of actually growing, of actually learning more, of seeking more knowledge, in addition to things as far as like fights falling through and blaming left and right. Like, listen, the blame game never works.
Yeah.
The solution to the problem is what's going to work. But if you don't know where to fix it because you're just like, hey, it's all their fault, and you don't take any accountability that this is a two-way conversation, then no one can really move forward. So I think at the end of the day, there has to be that look in the mirror, that honest look in the mirror, without the cameras on, without fans reading your Twitters or anything like that, to really say like, this is this is what I could have done better, right? In this situation, and learn from those, address them, and fix them the next time go around.
Well,
Because
like
listen,
like
we're all human and we all make mistakes.
but like Chad was saying, asking yourself the right question instead of the why. Learn to move on from asking the how and what to create that remedy or the result that you want in life.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
So, but yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys learned some stuff. For us, Sunday we want to preach what we have in wisdom in creating motivation and inspiration to people to move into a better place. We'll have guests like Chad, and sometimes we'll have our own wisdom that can help you. So thank you guys again for coming out here, and hope you guys learned something to move into a better place if you are not in a good place. and if you're in a good place, to move in a greater place. So again, make that choice. For you will always have the choice of your life, your thoughts, and your actions. So create those actions by having a greater thoughts and greater moment. I lost my train of thought here,
I
but
see that.
create your own decision. You are the maker, you are the creator of your decision, of your life, of your mind, of your action. So take that accountability that you are that person that created your life, your path in this moment in time. But know that when you do create those decisions, you can create the path that you choose to become or to have. So till next time, guys, thank you for
We'll
tuning
see you
in.
guys
Much love.
in about 13 hours at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Terrence Bud Crawford signed with Golden Boy. Let's talk about it
Question.
tomorrow. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you guys so much again. Peace.
Bless up.
I'm Jarrell. And I am Logan. Thank you for watching this video. And don't forget to like and subscribe the video. And hit the bell. Ding, ding, ding. KO! Jinx, got ya.
Nonitos the nail. Filipino, flash, flash, Filipino.